Start for Trice. That's Chase, and what a start for Cincinnati. And he has the curveball. Puts a move on. Bijan Robinson, he's going to have his first touchdown. Gibbs out of the backfield right away. Oh, yeah, there's no question that he was grabbed. They got Gibbs one-on-one with Andrew Van Ginkel in space, and that was it.
And this is, again, it's man-to-man. It's one-on-one, and he's underneath. He loses his balance. Block Bowers is one of those guys that has a huge, and this is...
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network, live on the Fantasyholics YouTube channel. I am Bo, as the sign says. That is my good friend Brant. Brant, we've got a pivotal week 14 here. You're either in your last week of playoffs, or either in your first week of playoffs, depending on your platform, or you're making that last-ditch push to get into your playoffs, making those last-ditch trade offers if you're in a dynasty league that doesn't lock them until the playoffs start. This is a huge week for fantasy football, and it's another week where we have bye weeks. So, really, hopefully you're not in the playoffs this week, but if you are, hopefully it's a 2-week playoff and you can come back from this and some of the names that are out this week.
Yeah, definitely kind of weird to be starting the playoffs now with bye week still, but I know we started that last year in some formats with extending the seasons. So that is a tough thing. I get the beneficiary of our I am win and I'm in, and I get the guy that doesn't know how to set his lineup in our league this week. So I should be pretty okay. So I definitely,
although you lost to a guy who does the same thing last week, so.
He set his lineup.
He did last week. He did. You're right.
He set his lineup and had negative points, and I went from the highest scorer to I don't even think I was the low. I think I was the lowest scorer.
That wasn't good, but we move on. We digress.
Yeah.
There is some big news to talk about before we get too deep into this episode. Mark Andrews signs an extension with the Baltimore Ravens. What's your thoughts on that? Is that good, bad? Where are you at for that fantasy-wise?
I'm curious. I haven't looked. What's Isaiah Likely's contract? Because he may be out the door now.
I believe this is his last year under contract. I believe. I could be wrong. He might have one more.
Yeah, I think one of those guys is out the door this offseason, and obviously it's probably not Mark Andrews. I saw that pop up earlier tonight. So I think it's huge. You keep one of his favorite weapons there. So you're saying you do trust him at the tight end spot, but I do think Likely will be out the door.
Absolutely. I tend to agree with you. It is a little shocking that Mark Andrews earned a contract extension because his year hasn't really been that great. But, hey, the Ravens like what they have in him. He's probably a culture guy in that locker room, big influence as a captain. So I'm sure that was part of the decision to keep him around. So other big news is the Cleveland Browns activated or opened Deshaun Watson's 21-day window to start practicing. What's your thoughts on that, Brant?
I think you keep Sanders in. Don't even give this guy an option. I think you keep Sanders. I don't think you're really much of a playoff team right now, even if you somehow sneak into the playoffs. I don't think they're mathematically eliminated quite yet, but I don't think you go back to Watson. I know you gave up, everything in the franchise to go get him, but I think you stick with what you got. See if you do have it. If Sanders isn't the guy after he's got 2 weeks and we got 4 weeks left. So after 6 weeks, if maybe you don't feel comfortable in Sanders, maybe you have to draft another one. I know that's kind of the Cleveland Browns special. Let's draft one every year and maybe something will stick. But yeah, I don't think you go back to Watson.
Yeah, I actually think I disagree, Brant. If you look at Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, they've combined for 2 wins, 6 losses between the two of them. Granted, I know the sample size is much smaller for Shedeur, and he did look a little bit more confident. this past week than he did his first week. He got that win in the first week, lost this week, but he looked a little more confident. However, Deshaun Watson has a $131 million cap hit next year. They cannot walk away from him until the year after next. So I think he has to play. I think even potentially a mediocre Deshaun Watson, if he can get back to that point, like if they let him let him get out to the point where he's healthy, I have to assume a mediocre Deshaun Watson's better than anything we've seen out of Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel at this point. It definitely would be interesting to see how the Browns go with this. I'm not saying I'm rushing out and going to trade for Deshaun Watson in Superflex leagues, but I think it's something that I'm interested to see. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't get another chance, Brant.
Okay. I don't know how good it would be for the locker room to let that guy start after everything he's put that franchise through. I understand the cap hit and everything else. I don't see it. I think it could be a cancerous situation, and having guys asking to be out of that locker room.
I mean, can Deshaun Watson really be the worst thing in the Cleveland Browns history? Everything they've been through. I'm sure. I mean, these guys are famous for wearing bags over their heads and masks, and can't be the worst, can it? I mean, it is. I mean, you gave everything and anything to get him, and I mean, how many games has he really played for your team? Yeah, not a lot, and it's definitely not panned out the way that they thought it would. But I could be wrong here on the timing of this, but I feel like it was right after they cut ties with Baker Mayfield that they went and got Deshaun, and that has to be like a bitter pill to swallow as well for Browns fans, is how well Baker has looked, and the opposite end of that. So also worth mentioning, it is the Fat Boy Bowl this weekend. I wish it was under better circumstances, but your Seahawks do play my Atlanta Falcons this weekend. One of the probably worst games on the schedule this week. There's a lot of good contests this week. I won't count that one amongst them. Obviously, I'm still going to root for my team to win, but I also root for them to lose because I want the whole team to get fired. So I'm going to be very conflicting for me, but I think it sounds like Drake London's probably trending towards out again there. So that'll be another sigh of relief for you guys. But I think this is a big win for you guys. But yeah, it's worth mentioning that, Sunday we'll still be buddies, but we'll be less buddies than we are today.
McDonald's been better on the road, so it's nice that we're going to Atlanta. We should hopefully put together a better offensive display than we did this week. I know the points looked like we had a great week, but it was all defense. So, I mean, we had one touchdown and 17 field goals. It felt like every time I blinked my eyes, Jason was on the field kicking the ball. So
at least he kicked the ball, not the turf.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the ball slipped. The ball slipped.
That used to be Atlanta's problem. Thank goodness it's not anymore. All right, Brant, let's get into the meat and taters of the show today. We are going to play a game, this or that. You have no idea the players I'm going to come at you with. I'm going to give you some stats. Then I'm going to ask you if you have a guess on either of the players. If not, so be it. But then I'm going to give you the players' names. I'm going to have you pick after this off the stats. Then I'm going to give you the players' names and see if you'd stay with your pick or if you'd switch it and why. Then we are going to get in and talk about some rookies that we're looking forward to next year, guys that we're starting to do a little bit of research on, starting to kick the tires on. Because, again, for some of us, we may be out of the playoffs or we may be very short-lived in the playoffs. We need something to look forward to for fantasy. So we got something for you guys as well. And then we got something for this underdog preview for Thursday night, probably one of the best contests of the week. And it's going to start us off on Thursday. I believe the Vegas line's 54.5 last I looked. So definitely going to be a high scoring affair. Hopefully we get some news on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everything I'm seeing is that he's trending towards not playing, but he hasn't been ruled out yet. And he went from doubtful to questionable. So I'm not expecting him to play this week, but we'll see. All right, Brant. You ready to play this or that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, buddy.
Let me get my paper out.
I'm going to be nice to you on the first couple of games here. Well, actually, I'll just tell you it every time. This first one is running back versus running back. All right. So running back A has 13 total touchdowns, 236 total touches, 1,416 total yards. Okay, that's player A. Okay. Player B, 7 total touchdowns, 249 total touches, 1,489 total yards. Which player do you prefer?
I got to go with player A. The touchdown, the touches aren't much different. The yards aren't much different. That touchdown makes that 6 points per touchdown, 6 different touchdowns. I got to go with player A.
Okay, player A, Jahmyr Gibbs. Player B, Bijan Robinson.
I actually think I stick with my pick here because I do believe Detroit has a better matchup the rest of the year, better matchups rest of year. So I do think I go with sticking with Gibbs.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, and let's call it what it is. Gibbs was probably not where he was maybe 2 weeks ago, but he's coming off some pretty big games on Thanksgiving, and then obviously the week before where he broke a lot of scoring records in fantasy. So if you take those 2 recent weeks away, which obviously you can't, different situation maybe, but yes, 13 total touchdowns versus 7 is a massive difference. That makes a lot of fantasy points. So there is I think 28 points separating the 2 of those. That's an RB1 finish in its own right. So yeah, you're getting an extra running back in 1 week of the season, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys. Yep.
All right, next one. This one's the one I was most excited about when I was doing it because I think you're going to hate both answers, but we'll see. All right, wide receiver versus wide receiver. Wide receiver A, 95 targets, 57 receptions, 795 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. Player B, 87 targets, 56 receptions, 699 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns.
I think I go with player A here. He's being targeted more. He does have 1 more reception, so he's got a few more yards. I know the 2 touchdowns, but I do think I go with player A.
All right, Brant, you just chose Nico Collins over A.J. Brown. Do you stand by that?
No, not with the last few weeks that A.J. Brown has had. He's starting to come on. They're starting to see that, okay, maybe we just got to throw the ball to him. So, no, I think I stick with A.J. Brown. Or I think I go to A.J. Brown.
Does that change at all when you consider the fact that Nico's been catching passes from a backup for a few weeks? He's getting his guy back under center. That chemistry is going to kick back up.
No, because I do think that Philly is finding, hey, this is what we have to do. We have to do this. We have to get him the ball because Saquon is getting stacked against his year is not the greatest. We have to push it down to AJ. So no.
Not entirely. Yeah, that's fair. Again, yeah, that's fair. Again, I think I lean with you on this one. I think I'd go A.J. Brown right now. Recency bias is a thing for sure. But A.J. Brown the last 2 weeks has been one of the better wide receivers in football. It was a real slow start before that. The first, 12 weeks of the season or 11 weeks of the season, you'd like to forget, I guess, with all the drama and everything else. But things seem to be working themselves out a little bit in that locker room. So it's definitely interesting that he's coming on so strong. But I think he's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. So that definitely makes a big difference. And again, I think that's the biggest factor when you talk about 6 touchdowns versus 4. I want the guy who's finding the end zone. Mm-hmm. So, all right, tight end versus tight end here for position 3. I got one more after this one for you, Brant. All right, first tight end A, 52 targets, 37 receptions, 332 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns.
Okay.
Tight end B, 75 targets, 56 receptions, 541 yards, 1 touchdown.
Player A, Zach Ertz.
It is not.
Okay. No, I guess he'd have a lot more yards. This is crazy. So this is just a ball mover, but doesn't get targeted in the red zone. The other one is kind of just in the red zone. Is where he makes his bread and butter. I think. God, this is gross. I think I'd go with B.
Okay. I think, honestly, after I reveal the names, I'd stick with where you're at. Personally, player B, when I reveal them, I think is definitely growing his volume where the other player may not be. However, player A did just receive a contract extension. Mark Andrews was player A. Player B, Brant, who you chose, who I think you were right on the money with, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I think I stick with Pitts. Baltimore's offense still isn't all that great, so I do think I go with Kyle Pitts here still.
Yeah, it's not Baltimore offense. It's the MVP. It's Lamar Jackson, who isn't looking great. Something's got to give there. He's got to get back to his MVP ways for this team to start looking better. They got an uphill battle to make the playoffs, and Lamar's going to have to play. So we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm taking Kyle Pitts. No Drake London again this week. I think that'll be Kirk Cousins' guy again. So that's who I'm leaning with right now.
We finally stopped talking about Lamar being just a running back, and then all of a sudden he goes right back to doing nothing.
But he's not even a running back at this point.
Yeah.
He's a potato back there. All right, last one I got for you. This is going to be a running back versus wide receiver. Running back versus wide receiver matchup. So player A, Brant, is going to be your running back. He's got 178 total touches. He's got 857 total yards, and he's got 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
Wide receiver, or player B, has 79 targets, 64 receptions, 705 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And we'll say, just for your decision-making purposes, this is a PPR league.
Well, right now, it looks like he's got the most accurate quarterback than what we've talked about lately.
That's you're going to feel that way for sure after I reveal the names.
I think I go with the wideout.
Okay, let me tell you, wideout has on the season 9 more points total than the running back. Okay, 9 more total points. This is wide receiver 20 versus running back 20.
Okay.
You chose Stephon Diggs over Jaylen Warren.
I stand by it. I like Diggs. Warren is still splitting that backfield with Gainwell. He's still seeing touches as well. So I do stick with Diggs.
Now, I'm going to ask you or give you some reasons why I'm going the other way. I'm going Jaylen Warren. First reason why is because of what Mike Tomlin came out and said today. He wants to get back to the typical Pittsburgh Steelers gritty football game. There's going to be more touches in the backfield. He's going to run the football. All right. So I think you're going to see the Jaylen Warren numbers go up. Obviously, Jaylen Warren has already had his bye week as well, whereas the Patriots have not. So I think that makes a difference also. The biggest difference for me, Brant, is if you go look at games this season where Kayshon Boutte has played, Diggs' numbers drop pretty significantly. And with him coming back, that does worry me a little bit because of how much Drake May is spreading the ball this year. Drake, the last 2 weeks, Kayshon Boutte is out-targeted Stephon Diggs. So, again, I think it's one of those things that if I'm starting one of these guys in my playoff roster, I'm taking the running back with the safe floor versus the unsafe floor in Diggs. So 9 points separate the two. I just thought it was interesting. Wide receiver 20 and running back 20 were that close in points to begin with.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So to recap, Brant, you said you want Stephon Diggs, Kyle Pitts, Nico Collins, and Jahmyr Gibbs in fantasy.
Yes, I did.
Well, you did, but you don't want him. Yeah, you did, but you don't want him. All right. All right, let's get into these rookies. I'm going to give you a chance to talk. Let me shut up here for a minute. So take us through who you chose for your rookie breakdown for the first week of us doing this.
You talked about getting back to a nitty-gritty running game, a powerful runner. I'm going to talk about Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State, 22 years old at the time of the draft. He is currently only 21. He will turn 22 in January this year. So at the draft, he will be 22. This guy, he broke the freshman record for rushing touchdown, which we've all seen Penn State running backs have been great. over the years. He had 12 rushing touchdowns in his freshman year. He stands 6 foot tall, 224 pounds. He only thing I could find was an unofficial 40, and I think it was like 4.4, maybe a little higher. It was just kind of an unofficial one that was posted on a site that I use. Excuse me. Let me catch over a few of his stats. In 2022, he had 156 carries, 1,061 yards, and 12 touchdowns, 11 receptions, 1 touchdown, 85 yards. He did average 6.8 yards per carry in his freshman year. Sophomore year, he had 171 carries, 752 yards, 4.4 yards per touchdown, 4.4 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns. I'm getting ahead of myself. And then he upped those receiving numbers, 26 receptions, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. So then you go over to 2024, 172 touches, 1,049 yards, 6.4 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns. And then once again, higher in the receiving numbers, 41 receptions, 375 yards, and 5 touchdowns. This year has been a down year for him. He only has 123 total touches so far, 549 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. But he still has 13 rushing touchdowns with the rest of the numbers coming down. He has 24 receptions, 219 yards, and only 1 receiving touchdown this year. So this is a kind of a down year for him. We talked about this guy coming out last year prior to him coming back to Penn State. He does share the backfield there. But I think this is a guy that could almost make an immediate impact and have a three down role and on a team that is running back needy. He's pretty good in the pass protection. So that should get him on the field a little bit quicker. He can catch, as we see. He's got good quick footwork, top end speed. He once hit 23.6 miles per hour on the radar there. And like I said, he is very good in pass pro. He does lack that cutback vision. He has kind of a tunnel vision. He sees the lane. I'm hitting this lane and I'm staying going forward. I'm not going to cut back, try to shatter a tackle. He may try to run through somebody, but he's not going to hit a cutback very good. So once again, like I said, his cuts are not the greatest. He does lack the hip movement and everything else. He's not a twitchy little running back. He's not a Gibbs where he's going to get the ball and make a bunch of people miss like that. It's going to be more like he may try to run through you rather than around you, but not quite as Jackson Dart does, trying to go through your chest.
Sure, yeah.
So
yeah, I think too, when you bring this player up, Brant, it's only fair to say I think if he would have known what this season was going to be for Penn State, he probably wouldn't have went back. Nobody thought James Franklin was going to get fired this season. Nobody thought Drew Allar was going to get hurt and miss time. So those are all things that played a factor into how well he did this year. So I think you don't give him a pass. Obviously, good players find a way to get it done, but maybe his numbers aren't as bad as they should be because, playing with a backup quarterback under center, coaching change in the middle of the year. Those are things that are hard for college-age kids to do. So, definitely give him a little bit of a pass or at least some grace when you're doing your rankings and looking at him, because I do think he's going to come in and it's going to be one of those players that maybe people sleep on a little bit, because I think a lot of people are looking at this running back class going, it's Jordan Love or bust. And I think we've seen in the years past that's just not the case. Other running backs end up at spots where they end up having good matchups or whatever the case may be. So it's one of those things that you just you never know until you get there, and we see how the NFL draft shakes out. But I went with the wide receiver, Brant. I went with Jordan Tyson out of ASU, Arizona State. I'm sure this is a kid you've seen, maybe not as much this year as you have in years past watching the Pac-12, but this kid's 21 years of age. He will be 21 when he's drafted. When the season starts, he'll be 22. His measurements are a little off. We'll see what it comes out with at the combine. The ASU website has him at 6'2", 195. ESPN has him at the same, and then Player Profiler had him at 6'1", 200. So it fluctuates there a little bit. We'll see. He did start out at Colorado with Dion and then transferred to Arizona State. In his career in college, he's had 158 receptions, 2,282 yards, 22 touchdowns. Some of the things that I really like about Mr. Tyson, he's got extremely strong hands, Brant. Watches the ball come in. It's not, Quentin Johnson-esque where he's going to be watching the ball hit his hands and he's going to look away and drop it. Once that ball touches his hands, it's not going anywhere. Tracks the ball really well on deep balls. And also tracks the ball really well on goal line work where it's kind of like post corner fades, things of that nature. He tracks the ball really well over his shoulder, makes it really hard for the cornerback to break a ball up or make a play on the ball. Has really loose hips, which I like when I watch Jordan Tyson. I like that in a lot of wide receivers. You don't want to see a stiff wide receiver. He runs crisp routes, and if he needs to make an adjustment, he's loose enough in the hips that he can do that real quick to shake a. He's not the quickest guy or the fastest guy. I'll say he's very quick, but he's not fast. He's one of those guys that's going to rely on his route tree and his cuts to create mismatches and get separation for the ball. Very similar route running ability to what I think of when I see Rashee Rice, just maybe a little bit bigger than Rashee and probably a smidge slower on, deep developing plays. But when I'm looking at this guy, Brant, and I don't want to trigger your PTSD here, so you feel free to yell at me after this if you want. But when I look at this guy, I see a cross between Keenan Allen and Kenny Golladay. And I know that sounds gross on the surface, but Kenny had a couple good years there before he was not great. And I know, we don't need to bring up that somebody drafted him in the third round of our dynasty startup as their first wide receiver. But anyway,
he was supposed to be the one in New York.
He was, and he was the one for a few years, and then he was the one disappointment. But yeah, I just, very similar to Keenan Allen, who just finds a way to get open for his quarterback. That's what I see in Jordan Tyson. Very strong with the ball in his hands, kind of like Kenny Golladay was there in Detroit. I see a lot of that, and I think the upside for Jordan Tyson, Brant, is Michael Thomas-esque. How he used those slant routes to really, hurt the defense. Really, that's where he used his mismatch. I see a lot of that in Jordan Tyson. I think if you're talking about upside somewhere in the Keenan Allen, Kenny Golladay, Michael Thomas range, you're really happy with the production. Now, granted, only one of those three was good for a long period, but I just think this is a wide receiver class that, and again, it's worth noting, Brant, every single year, with the exception of a very few, we go into a rookie draft class where we're all kind of like, blah, this class sucks. This class is trash. I'm looking to next year. And then we get into it. Landing spots start to happen. The combine starts to happen. We start getting excited about some of these guys. And inevitably, when it comes draft time, those draft picks are a very hot commodity again because everybody wants players that they fell in love with. During the offseason, Jordan Tyson is a player that I feel myself or is a guy that I could see myself becoming very interested in and wanting a lot of shares of him. We'll see if I get him like I did. I loved Luther Burden last year. I think I have 2 shares. So, and I had to trade for both of those. So. Yeah, but Jordan Tyson's definitely a guy I'm looking into. Go ahead.
It's funny you talk about different sites listing it. The one I use, NFL Draft Buzz, it has him listed as 6'2". And his brother just got drafted this past year to Cleveland as well. So his athletic family, we've seen that, move on and help people in the pros and everything else. This is a guy that definitely is a guy, like you said, I haven't got a chance to watch a whole lot of late night games this year, like I used to with Washington being in the Pac-12. Moving to the Big Ten. They play a little bit earlier nowadays, so I don't have to stay up as late to watch the Huskies and the Pac-12. This is definitely a guy that just reading about him while you're talking about him, I haven't done a whole lot of research on the wide receivers because in our Dynasty League, it's I am going to draft every single running back that comes down to me, and it's not going to be anyone that I want, just like this year's draft. But it's absolutely a guy that's definitely going to be looking is going to have me looking at him into these drafts and getting more research done on him.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Brent, let's jump into this Thursday night preview, and then we'll get off of here for the evening. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, Kevin, I want to say real quick, I do see your question over there. I will get to that in just a second. Brant, take me through your underdog card here, and then we'll get into Kevin's question.
So this Thursday night game has all the makings of that Rams-Kansas City game from years ago, where you could end up seeing both quarterbacks throwing for close to 400 or 500 yards, and these receivers just going ballistic and setting you up for a nice fantasy start to your week. So I'm going to kick it off. I got CeeDee Lamb. It's funny, CD and George Pickens both have the same line on underdog at 80 and a half receiving yard. I am going to take CeeDee Lamb to go higher than 80 and a half receiving yards. I think this is going to be a CeeDee Lamb game. I think he's going to get targeted galore and go well over that. And then I got Isaac Tesla to go higher than 35 and a half receiving yards. I don't think St. Brown's going to play. I think Isaac's going to step right into that role, not get targeted, hyper targeted like he does, but I think 35 and a half is going to be way too low for this game. As you can see, multiple receivers going over 40 yards in this game. I do believe that Sam Laporta is out. St. Brown will be out, and I think there's a couple more names that I went over and saw that might be missing the game as well. And like I said, I think this is going to be an aired out game. We've seen Dallas's rush defense start to step up. So I'm going David Montgomery to go lower than 33 and a half rushing yards.
Okay, that's interesting because that feeds really well into where I'm at with mine. I started out with a higher on Jahmyr Gibbs and his rushing yards, Brant. I was very close to going under on it because of that, but I think him being able to bounce it outside better than David Montgomery will make him hit his. So I've got Jahmyr Gibbs higher than 75 and a half rush yards. Kevin's going to lead me right into my next one here when he says, hopefully it's a Pickens game, being a Pickens owner and being playoffs. I have Pickens going higher than 5.5 receptions this week. I think it's a George Pickens game. The Detroit Lions live in man coverage. CeeDee Lamb is the better wide receiver against zone. Pickens has been way better than CeeDee against man this year. Now, it will be interesting with Terrion Arnold being ruled out for the Lions and then missing their other corner. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but it could be interesting if maybe they do go to more of a zone matchup since they won't match up as well with these wide receivers. But on paper, they play a lot of man, and that's what George Pickens is better at than CeeDee Lamb. So I have it as a George Pickens game. And then the last one I have, again, this feels like you said, it has the makings of being an explosive contest. I would not be shocked to see 60 points scored in this game, potentially, Brant. I have Brandon Aubrey higher than 8.5 kicking points for the Dallas Cowboys. I think when you talk about extra points and field goals with him, I think you're talking about one of the best offenses in football. I think it just makes too much sense to have a kicking parlay in on this one. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's get into Kevin's. Go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
I was going to say, absolutely. This game just has points written all over it, which means you probably should smash the under because it is a Thursday night game and it's probably going to be under the 54 or 56 point line, but it just has the makings of a phenomenal game for both receivers or for all the receiving core and everything else.
Kevin did go on to come over here and say he likes me better than you, Brant. Fans are speaking. I can't help that. But anyway, Kevin's question is, do you think Jaden Daniels plays this week? And if he does, would you start him over Trevor Lawrence?
Who does Jacksonville have? I
will tell you right presently.
While you do that, I'm going to go see what the latest
Colts.
update.
He had a limited practice today.
No, I think I keep Trevor in. I think I do believe Sauce is out. So that the whole addition of what could have been for that secondary where they were, trying to bolster it and they moved their number 1 to 2, getting Sauce to help that secondary that was horrible leading into that trade. I think we're going back to it being horrible. And so I think I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. And I think too, when you talk about Trevor Lawrence, this is a guy that is getting his feet underneath of him this year right now. I mean, the Jaguars are playing good football to begin with. But when you look at the last 5 weeks for Trevor Lawrence, 4 out of the 5 weeks have been a quarterback 1 finish with 12, 21, 11, 7, and 5. This last week being the 5, obviously. I think you have to play Trevor Lawrence right now. He's playing too well. And the other part of this is I think the Commanders would be very silly to bring Jaden Daniels back. They're 3-9. Their season's pretty well over. They're not mathematically eliminated yet, but they're darn close. If they haven't been, they may have been mathematically eliminated already. Now that I say that, I think they are. There's no reason to rush Jaden Daniels back. Marcus Mariota's made this team competitive. Obviously, he's not Jaden Daniels. I'm trying to say he is, but from Washington's standpoint, you don't gain a lot from bringing Jaden Daniels back, but you sure could stand to lose a lot. So I think they're going to be very, very cautious with him until he's 100%. I don't think you see him out there. So I'd like to see Kevin, if he doesn't have a full practice either tomorrow or Friday, I'm going to say he doesn't play this week. And I'm pretty confident in Trevor Lawrence right now anyway. So, I think that addition of Jacoby Myers really helped him out a lot. Even if he's not the number one guy, he's definitely had a good week last week, but he's definitely just another target that Trevor Lawrence is starting to feel confident in. And BTJ had a little game this week as well, Strange as well. So I like where Lawrence is at right now. I think I'm starting him pretty happily. Brant and I in a super flex where we just recently pushed all our chips to the middle of the table where we co-own a team and are going all in or are rostering and starting Trevor Lawrence right now. So we're doing that pretty confidently as well. So I think you stick with him right now unless Daniels comes out and gets a couple full practices and they say, hey, no limitations, then I think you go Trevor.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, he's getting everyone back healthy there. Trevor Lawrence is. That offense is starting to get clicking and moving the ball down the field. And like you said, Trevor's starting to show what he can do. It took him a few years to figure it out and getting comfortable with the coaching staff, and maybe they'll stick around longer than a year or half a season. Needless to say, but yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think, and I mean, they're right back in the race for their division too, with the Colts starting to slowly slip.
Yeah, Kevin does follow it up by saying he has Drake May as his guy. It's just for the bye week. So, yeah, I think for the bye week, you're definitely comfortable with Trevor Lawrence. It does suck that you have Drake May and you're in your first week of playoffs without your guy. Drake May is one of those prime examples of a player I'd hate to be with going into the playoffs, but I think Trevor Lawrence is probably okay for you for a 1 week fill-in.
Yep, absolutely. I don't think it would hurt you. I think it also would help him. Oh, and he's missing CMC.
Oh,
or has CMC, yeah.
But 2 week matchups, he says. Okay. Well, Kevin, good news. Brant and I will be live this weekend, 10:30 Eastern time, give or take. We'll hang out for at least an hour, probably closer to 90 minutes, and see where you guys are at. And as long as we're busy on the show and you guys are hanging out, we'll definitely be there hanging out and giving you guys advice. So, Kevin, if you have questions still, need either a home run play or safe plays after Thursday night because you have so much going there, don't hesitate to come jump in and hang out with Brant and I at 10:30 Eastern time on Sunday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Come join us. Talk some football, talk some food every Sunday morning. It's always fun. And like you said, as long as you guys are hanging out, we'll hang out with you. We'll talk some plays and everything else as you see Kevin is in his playoffs. So I'm sure other people are as well. So definitely come and help. Come and reach out if you need some help, especially after this Sunday or this Thursday, as you said, could be a huge game or could end up being a bus game. We'll definitely talk about it on Sunday.
Yeah. He does come at us with another question here before we completely sign off. Says he has Omari and Hampton as well. Would you play him over Chase Brown, Judkins, or Harvey? I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm pretty confidently playing Omari and Hampton over RJ Harvey, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with that.
I just want to go look real quick at the schedule. Chase Brown has the Bills. I love that matchup. Huge over-under. Judkins has the Titans. I don't feel like you could sit Judkins in that one. And Harvey's got the Raiders. You can't really sit Harvey either. I'm probably leaving Omari and Hampton out. They have the Eagles. The Bears just torched the Eagles on the run game.
They did just torch them, so it'll be interesting to see what adjustments the Eagles may do towards the run game. I assume they're not going to allow them to get torched 2 weeks in a row, but that's definitely
right now. I think I'd leave a. I think you see a 50-50 split in that Chargers backfield week 1. So I think I stay away from Hampton week 1. I think you roll with those other 3. The matchups are just too darn good in all 3 of those. I think that's where you're at.
Yeah, I think I stick with the 3 you have there.
Yeah, I do think Herbert plays, and I'm not sure it makes a huge difference because I think between Herbert, or whether it's Herbert or Trey Lance under center, I think you're still going to see a decent amount of Kamani Vidal. He's earned that right.
Yep. I do think Herbert will play as well. I do think that Lance may open it up a little bit more with the read option being out more of a factor than it is with Herbert. But I still think I lean towards keeping those 3 in.
Yep.
Well, I think that wraps it up for us today. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, everyone else, for joining in with us. And as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.